Jackie is with the Usos. They said they've got receipts to hand out, and she asks about Punk's comments about Sika last week. Jay says, I don't have anything to say to him. Jimmy says, well, maybe I do. And then off camera, Jimmy's like, yeah, we should stick around. Jay's like, I'm done for the night. I was going to go, catch up on like some Netflix or something. Jimmy's like, no, we're going to stick around for like 2 hours to address this. And Jay's like, do I have to stay? You should probably stay.
Somehow in these 2 hours,
great plan here.
Somehow in these 2 hours, he got really worked up because in this segment, like Jay was certainly like, he was like, I'm cool with Punk, like whatever. Like he said that's their thing. By the time the segment came around, he was really upset. So maybe the weight just made him more upset.
Jimmy didn't lose any sleep over the last week, but now that Jackie brings it up, it's like, we could have a few words. Just go over what was the idea here. Was it just a work promo? So the final segment is CM Punk coming out, and he comes out. I think this guy seriously thought he was going to get booze.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I felt it almost felt like the first half of this promo was him like adjusting. And it's like, yeah, the line was like designed to have kind of a heel reaction, but there was not a second that I thought that this man was going to get booed by this crowd. But it really felt like this was structured like he was expecting, at worst, a mixed reaction. So he's like, all right, well, you guys seem to still like me. Some people were upset over what I said last week and for being disrespectful. Well, Roman Reigns has never respected me. And there was a brief OTC chant, and then it dies out. And I don't know if Punk was hoping it was going to come back or what, but there was like just this long, just nothing happening here. I didn't know what was going on here.
So I was thinking, okay, is he doing this pause for dramatic effect? Or
I think he was waiting for either the chant to come back or some reaction that was not coming.
Or was he searching for his lines in his head?
That has happened with Punk. Like there have been.
Could it just be that like maybe he's hearing something that the mics just aren't picking up well enough for us? Like this might be one of those shows where like we'll get feedback from somebody who will say like, it sounded amazing in my section. What are you guys talking about?
I don't care. It's I'm watching on this, and this dude, the first half of this was just like I thought
it was awkward. Yeah,
it was terrible. Like it was just I didn't know where this was going. It just felt like he was off. So then he explains that this championship was created because Roman shunned his title responsibilities. I defend this title because I'm proud. You deserve a fighting champion. I level people up physically and verbally. You've got to cut promos with me. And then last week, I lowered myself to Roman's level. But before he can explain how, the Usos come down. They have waited 2 hours for this moment. They're not wasting any more time. Jay is starving. He wants to get this on the road, even if we come up short on our Netflix time with Joseph Park with his stopwatch. So they want an apology. Punk asks, why is Roman still sending his cousins to do his heavy lifting? And dude, Jay is like, you ever see the Scared Straight skits on SNL when Kenan Thompson would like react and he just like, oh, and the other guy would be like the straight guy. And like Jay had to react. Like he was just so angry at everything Punk would say. And Jimmy is just like right off his shoulder, man. He's just like, okay, let's just chat this out. So Jimmy says, this has to do with respect. I respect you, Phil. You're the voice of the voiceless. And you can speak trash about Roman, but you disrespected our late uncle who has no voice. And Punk thinks for a long time, and he says, you're right. And he says, I'm not very spiritual, but do you think Sika can hear us? And they're both like, yeah. I'm like, where in God's name is this going? And he explains how much he respects Sika, and that while he didn't know Sika as well, he very much knew Afa, who he would drive to Allentown to work on his shows, learning from his family and having that knowledge handed down from him. He respects everyone in their family except for that one son of a bitch. That lying, conniving, gaslighting, narcissistic, plastic politician. And Jay steps in and says, You haven't said you're sorry yet. And then this crowd, who have been on their hands for most of the show, start chanting, say you're sorry. It's like, for fuck's sake. Like, some of these wrestling crowds, I swear to God, like, there are times, believe me, I very much will defend. Fans can chant whatever they want at people, but they're like trying to do this promo, and you just can't help yourselves with the lamest chants that you come up with. That's what this was. Say you're sorry.
I don't get so mad. Like, listen, these crowds are going to
It's so annoying sometimes.
chant whatever they feel coming out of a segment. I don't think it's in their interest to ensure like they provide the best soundtrack for what the producers or the performers want.
It's fine. I'm not locking them in prison. They're allowed to chant whatever they want, but I can also insult them for their chant choices here.
These are chants you would have muted. From a wrestling crowd.
Oh, if I was on the production team, these would have been out of there. So Punk finally says, "I'm sorry," and Jimmy's just like, "It's that easy, man. It was okay," but he's not done. "I'm sorry that Roman treated you guys like garbage, along with all the members of the bloodline." Jay, he was amazing here, by the way.
So great.
He says, he never apologized for the way he treated his family. He disrespected Dusty, calling him irrelevant. It's like, Dusty is like your father now, I believe. So he's just...
Well, come on. He qualified this by saying he was his mentor, and he's also the father of his good friend, Cody Rhodes. All right?
Hey, Phil, baby. No, we're not getting any Dusty tonight. He says... Roman never had to apologize for that one. So we don't get enough. We don't get enough of these equivalencies.
There is a true double standard, though. You know, like at times when Roman has made similar threats, insults, he's never had to apologize for anything.
Bitch, you made fun of Paul Bear a week after he died. How about that one, huh? That you brought out the urn. So he says. Roman never had to apologize for calling Dusty irrelevant, says Roman has tricked the Usos and the Samoan family. He doesn't care about any of you guys, and if he did care, he'd be in the middle of this ring and not sending out his young boys. And Punk just shoves the mic right into Jay's chest. And then Jay, who's just had to sit through all of this, has heard his uncle be degraded here by this man and then sit here for 10 minutes. The guy's starving. He waited 2 hours for this, shoves Punk down, and Punk's got this look on his face like, that was a little uncalled for. He didn't seem too happy about this.
I mean, in the moment, I think he was plenty fine with it by the end.
Well, that's how the show ended here.
Oh, you got Jimmy punching him, decking him. That's how
was
it
ended. Jimmy or Jay shoved him?
Jay shoved him.
Oh, Punk, and then Jimmy punched him. Okay.
Jay shoved him. Punk went back to retaliate, and before he could do that, Jimmy decked him.
Okay, sorry.
And the show ends with Punk actually smiling, looking at the camera. So again, just to kind of give you the impression that somehow this was all according to his plan. Like he continues to play the mind games, and he continues to puppet all of this to his advantage somehow. So I thought this was a terrific segment. Really, really excellent. I think
by the end of it was. There were two segments here to me. The first half and then the Usos part. The Usos
something was up before the Usos came out. But like once the Usos came here, I thought this was, I think, the best thing that we've had in this entire build so far. That includes, I would say, two very good, Punk and Roman segments. But once you get like the Usos in this, I think there's a level of emotion that you can get out of the Usos that you simply can't get out of Roman Reigns. And that's because the Usos, especially Jay in this case, are free to just like be emotional. And this was the type of segment that brought me back to some of the great Bloodline segments, including like, the Sami Zayn turn at Royal Rumble, where you got like a very similarly emotionally charged Usos reacting in the background to everything that was going on there. Except in this case, you had, Jey Uso, who at this point has had so much more development and a friendship with Punk that we've seen on screen, act this way, which I think adds just a whole lot more, I think, depth to this interaction. This was one of those arguments where you can, I think, like understand why everybody's upset. And you might side with somebody, but you can ultimately understand why your friends are fighting and they hate each other suddenly. I thought like Punk in all of this, like on the surface, a guy insulting like somebody's like dead dad, like that's awful. You would want to boo that. But he still came across very much like a babyface to me after it all, because he sounded very justified in his rage at Roman Reigns. He very clearly conveyed also that he has respect for the family, that he has respect for Sika, despite what he says, but he hates Roman Reigns. And I thought he made that very, very clear. He also made great points about like the double standard that he was being held to, that the Usos don't hold to Roman Reigns. So I thought Punk was excellent here, but you have to, of course, like sympathize with the Usos, who, you know, like, you hear something like that about a family member who's deceased, you see nothing but red. And they came out here with only one mission, and that was to get the apology, to get those words, "I'm sorry," from CM Punk. And at that sort of resistance, trust me, like I meet it all the time with a 3-year-old who refuses to say "I'm sorry" or to show any sort of like remorse. You go into a blind rage yourself. And so I thought Jimmy and Jay were both so good here. This was fantastic.
Are you comparing CM Punk to your 3-year-old child?
Yes, I am. Yeah, he drops pipe bombs on us all day. Trust me.
All right. Well, yeah, I overall enjoyed the segment quite a bit. And there's some, you know, again, you have 6 weeks here. You can do some interesting stuff here with, you know, Punk with the Usos as sort of stand-ins when Roman is not there. And I, like, based off of last week, like, I think you do want to kind of limit the Roman Punk interactions if they're just going to be your promos and save those for the last week or two. You don't have to have these guys doing their 10, 15 minutes together, and this can break things up a little, and you could do singles matches. You could do, you know, some tags with Punk finding somebody as well. Like there's ways to at least divert from just straight Reigns and Punk for all these appearances.
Yeah, but they have to do it in a way that still manages to protect the Usos as your tag team champions and doesn't just treat them as like, you know, supporting acts for Punk to beat, for instance, right? So I'm looking for this as a way to maybe for the Usos to branch off into a like their title match so that their program feels substantial and somewhat attached to all of this. So we'll see how they weave all that.
Yeah, because they're still doing the dual, like they came out to attack the Vision, so you still have the Usos with LA Knight attached to the Vision. So they're kind of, you know, doing both at the same time.
As far as CM Punk being a tweener, I really do get the sense they just, especially with like a babyface versus babyface program, they just want you to feel like they hate each other. And you might side with one guy on one issue, you might side with one guy on another issue, but ultimately, do you buy the grudge? Do you believe that these two hate each other? I think that's all they're looking for.
What was your sense? Because part of me thought, and especially watching the beginning of this promo, was like, did they envision that the line to end the show last week with Sika was going to get that outrage from the fan base of like invoking someone who has died for an angle? And like, I can only speak from like my observations, is like there was none of that coming out of last week's show. It was just another angle. But it felt like at the beginning of that promo, it certainly felt like they felt like it was going to get some of that.
I wonder if Punk himself might have been hesitant about the line. Just, you know, like number one, I felt it was certainly out of character for him to say. I thought you justified it really well, though, in just saying that, like, you know, Punk wants to play mind games. He's doing everything he can to get under the skin of Roman Reigns, more so than like an actual disrespect for Sika.
I think most understood that. Like, he brought it up in the promo last week. Like, when you said you hated me, I've already gotten into your head. And he's playing with that now.
But the fact is, like, I mean, Punk is a superstar, and people, you know, when he arrives at these towns, are just happy to see him, and that outweighs any sort of scripted line they can make him say.
The Post Wrestling Cafe is your one-stop shop for all of the coverage that Post Wrestling has to offer. 2 big rewind-aways this month with WWF Insurrection from May of 2002. This UK-only pay-per-view featured the Raw brand going overseas and ending with the infamous plane ride from hell. Then we're going to take a look at AWA's Super Sunday from April of 1983. A new edition of Talk Can Be Yours, plus MCU Later, Book Club, and coverage of UFC 326, TNA Sacrifice, and of course, XL editions of Rewind to Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown with all the news of the day. Join now at postwrestlingcafe.com.